Hello and welcome back. This is Dawn with another video for Picket Studios. So today we are going to be creating a couple of cards all using the same stencil, but we're going to use it in a couple different ways so that we get some unique looks. So all the cards today are going to feature the Rainbow Dreams 6x8 stencil here from Picket Studio. So this is just a simple one-layer geometric stencil. And with a little bit of creativity, these simple stencils can actually be quite versatile. Now this one is an all over repeating rainbow pattern, and instead of applying one color or a gradient of color through this particular stencil, I want to color block it and create rows of different colors. So in order to do that, I need to do some masking. I've got this Eclipse masking paper, and I'm going to cut down a portion large enough to color from edge to edge of my A2 panel here. I like to do my stenciling on a grip mat. So I have my grip mat down, I have my A2 panel on top of that, and then I've laid my stencil on top of that. And the grip mat is going to hold my cardstock and my stencil in place without the need for any washi tape. So here, first thing I need to do is trace out the area that I need to cut. I'm going to press my stencil into place here along the top. That's going to allow me to flip my stencil up and place my masking paper underneath it. Then I can just take a pencil here and trace through the openings here to give me a guide for where I need to cut. So this is just I'm going to trace out the scallop here above each of the rainbows, and then I'm going to use my scissors to trim out just beneath that line. You can see here that I just traced out that scalloped edge. And again, I'm going to trim this out just below that line. This is going to give me the perfect little silhouette there to place over my stencil and block out certain areas. So you can see there, when I line that up, it's blocking out that row underneath, and then the leftover part here is perfectly contoured to block out the row above. Now I did make a boo-boo here. I should have traced in the middle of this piece of paper so that I would have more paper there on the top and the bottom, but I had this extra piece, so I can use that to cover up anything else that I don't need. And these are all the pieces that I'll need to do this entire panel. So let's go ahead and get started. I am going to start at the bottom, and for that we're going to start with a little bit of spiced marmalade. And I'll be using paper pouncers to do all of my blending here on all of my cards today. I really like the paper pouncers for intricate or detailed stencils, especially ones where using a blending brush might cause a little bit of stress on the stencil or make some of the areas lift. And the pouncers provide really good, quick saturation and coverage of the ink through the stencil. Sometimes it can be a little hard to get a super smooth blend with the pouncers as opposed to the blend that you get with brushes. However, I will be doing a gradient here in our third card, and I'm able to get a perfect gradation of color and a beautiful blend between each color. So stay tuned for that. And I used nothing but the pouncers here. Okay, so for the next row, I used a little bit of picked raspberry, and again, I'm just pouncing that color through the stencil. It may look a little uneven, but because we do have those white breaks going through this design, it's not noticeable. So I'm not overly worried about getting a perfect blend. I'm going to replace my masks, shift them up to the next row, and now I'm coming in with a little wilted violet, and I'm going to go ahead and pounce my color through for this row. I'm going to repeat the same step for the final row, and for that I use some Salty Ocean, and then we are ready to add the next layer. You didn't think we were going to stop here, did you? All right, so once we've got this layer done, we're going to take our stencil and we're going to shift it. All right, so I've lined it up where it was, and then I shifted it slightly up and to the left. Now, alternately, you could also shift it up a little bit higher so that almost all of the leftover white space is open and you could add in another color. But for this one, I decided just to shift it slightly because we are going to add a third layer. So first off, we're going to go ahead and we're going to do our masking again. I'm going to start at the bottom just like before. We're going to put our mask in place, and we're going to come in with a little bit of squeezed lemonade. Now the cool thing about this is I've left some white covered, so that's going to still retain that white border or those white breaks between our colors. But here we've got a little bit of white exposed, which is going to be that pure squeezed lemonade. We've also got a little bit of that spiced marmalade covered by the stencil, so we're going to retain some of that pure spiced marmalade. And then we're going to have an area where the two colors overlap and blend. So for each row, we're going to end up with 3 colors. We'll end up with the base color, which in this case was the spiced marmalade. We'll end up with the squeezed lemonade, and then also a stripe of the two combined. So we're going to repeat that for each row. I'm going to go ahead and mask off the second row, and this time we're going to come in with a little bit of the spiced marmalade. Now pink and orange are next to each other on the color wheel, so I know that they're going to blend and make a pleasing color. The only thing you want to be careful of here is not to pick colors that are opposite on the color wheel, because when they mix, they will create mud. So again, here we're coming in with that spiced marmalade, so we'll have a row of the picked raspberry, the spiced marmalade, and then a row where they combine. And again, this is just another way to stretch the stencil to get something that looks just a little bit different. Now for the purple row, I'm going to come in with a little bit of the picked raspberry. You'll notice that I'm picking colors that are used in the other rows as well. So our base layer for the spiced marmalade became our top layer for the row above it. And likewise, our base layer for the row below this became our top layer. And then for our final layer, we used the salty ocean, and we're going to come over that with a little bit of twisted citron. Now, alternatively, you could have used the squeezed lemonade over the salty ocean here, and you still would have got a green. So you would have had a yellow, a blue, and a green. So it's just up to you how far apart you want those colors to be. But this is, again, just a fun way to get a different look out of the stencil. So here you can see we've got multicolors going on here. Now I'll hold this up to the camera, and you can see that we have 3 colors in each row by only using 2 colors and shifting that stencil. All right, so for the second card, we're actually going to twist or rotate our stencil. So instead of doing them in rows, straight lines, this is going to give us more of a scalloped look, almost reminiscent of almost waves, kind of like a stylized waves. And I really like this look. You could stencil straight through and get a beautiful design that looks different than the rainbow look. But again, I wanted to isolate some of these, so I'm creating my mask. I've picked a row to trace. We're going to trim at our mask just like we did before. And then to make sure that it is accurate, I will test it in between. So once I finish cutting this out, I'm going to lay it over my mask, make sure that it is lined up with each of the little scallops there, and then trim away anything else as necessary. And again, the top portion of this mask is going to be the other half of the mask. Okay, so with our masks made, we're going to go ahead and start with our first row. And again, this one I said kind of reminded me of like illustrative waves. So we're going to go with the blues and the blue greens, starting with the peacock feathers for our first row. And again, I'll just paper pounce through this. And then for our second row, I'm going to do the salty ocean. And then for the third row, I went ahead and did some Uncharted Mariner. So I think that this would look great with all different colors. Another good combo would be to use complementary colors here. So you could do like a pink and a green, or a purple and a yellow, and alternate the rows that way. And I think that that would look really pretty. So here you can see that I didn't cover the entire sheet. I went about 2/3 of the way here. And when I remove this stencil, it has the fun scallop pattern. I absolutely love this one. But again, we are not done with this. We are going to add another layer. But in the meantime, I went ahead and did another background here. And this time I just did a simple gradient. This is pretty much how you would use the stencil, but I wanted to just show you that you don't have to do anything ultra special. You don't have to do anything complicated or any of that masking or anything. You can still get great results by just doing a beautiful gradient blend here. So I started with some picked raspberry, brought in some candy apple, the spiced marmalade, squeezed lemonade, down into a little twisted citron, brought in a little bit of that mowed lawn because I felt like the green just needed a little bit of help in depth. The twisted citron wasn't quite deep enough. So I used that mowed lawn to help transition into that salty ocean, and then from there I'll finish up with some wilted violet. Now you'll notice that I kind of keep going back and forth between these colors, building them up, and that's because I want to build or blend these colors as smoothly as possible. So if I allow the ink a little bit of time to just dry, I can actually build depth in the color, make it a little bit darker by putting another layer on top. I'm also able to capture some of those transition colors between the two. So you'll notice here that Salty Ocean, that Wilted Violet, where they overlap, I get almost this royal blue, and I wanted to make sure to capture that because it's just another tone. It's just another color here that I can capture in this gradient, and I absolutely love the way this turned out. Turned out so smooth and vibrant. When I remove the stencil here, you'll be able to see just how gorgeous this is. Absolutely love how this turned out. And I love how they all turned out, but I do think that we can kick these up a notch. You know, add a little bit of a wow factor. And what better way to add some wow than with glitter? I know, I'm on a glitter kick. I'll get over it eventually. Maybe, maybe not. But Picket Fence has these great texture pastes. They call them Paper Glaze. They have a lot of different types. You can get them in individual jars. You can get them in these sampler packs. They have some glass, some Paper Glaze Luxe, Paper Glaze Velvet. But here's a size difference between your regular jar. Over here on the right is a full-size jar, and then here is a sample of the jar from the sample pack. So you can get either or, full jar, sample pack, so you can try different ones. But all of these have different properties, and I really, really like the Luxe. They have glitter mixed in. Some of them have color, a colored base with a glitter mixed into it. The Twinkle Lights Clear is probably my personal favorite. It is completely clear with this iridescent glitter in it. Here's a look at one of the glasses. These dry super high shine, so they look wet even when they're dry. And then here is a look at one of their velvet textures. So it has this soft velvety texture when it's dry. Here you can see that iridescent shine in the Twinkle Lights Clear. This is what I'm going to be using on 2 of the cards today. So for the one where we did the shifting, we are going to shift the stencil so that we are allowing the rest of that white space to show through. Because we're using the clear, it's still going to have a white base, and so it's going to add that nice break for the eye, that visual area for the eye to rest. But we're going to add some glitter to it. And it's going to add a layer of glitter also over some of the colored areas. Now, I did not want to use my paper pouncer with this because I'm going to apply it with a sponge, and I'm going to pounce it through the same we would a paper pouncer. However, this is going to, when it dries hard, and I didn't want to ruin a paper pouncer. So I grabbed a makeup sponge, a cheap makeup sponge here, and I'm using that to pounce the same way I would a paper pouncer. And I'm taking my time putting this on. I'm not rubbing it because I don't want, these are oxides. Oxides are reactive with water, and I don't want to reactivate the inks and start smearing them. So I'm doing that quick pounce motion, and periodically I'll take a look at the sponge there and make sure that I'm not picking the ink up and transferring it into other areas. That's why you see me keep kind of peeking at it, looking at the bottom to make sure that it's not starting to turn colors. So again, I'll just go through here, pounce. I like to scoop a little bit out of the jar, put it into the lid. That'll give me a nice thin layer. This is going to dry super fast. Do not do this on your grip mat like I am doing it. I got super excited. I didn't think it through. As soon as I finished this though, I realized that I was working on my grip mat, and I went straight to the sink. So word of caution, do this on your craft mat, which I will switch to here as soon as I'm done with this panel. You don't want this drying, and you don't want the glitter stuck in your grip mat. So just do as I say, not as I do, and don't do this on your grip mat. I will tell you, I was fast enough. So I have no glitter embedded in my grip mat, and I have no paste hard and crusty on my grip mat. I immediately went to the sink and washed this off because it is a thin layer and it will dry very quickly. And then here is a quick up close look at all of that sparkle and shine. I love the dimension that this adds, and it really does sparkle so much in real life. Okay, so let's add a little bit of a wow factor to our second card now. And we're just going to add some Twinkle Lights C over top of the peacock feathers here. So I'm going to grab that mask. We're going to mask off our rows so we can isolate just that peacock feathers area. And if you wanted to, you could cut another mask so that you could do both of these rows at the same time, but I'm just going to reuse the masks that I already have. And like I said, I'm using the Twinkle Lights C. This one has kind of a seafoam green color with the glitter mixed in, and I'm going to use a palette knife to just thinly spread a layer of that paste here through my stencil. Now this is going to apply a little bit thicker than our last card because we are spreading it through the stencil, and it does have just a little height, a little bit of dimension to it. So it goes on just a bit thicker than when we sponged it on, but it still dries, it dries pretty quickly. I want to say this was dry in like 10 or 15 minutes. You'll just scrape your excess back into the jar, and then we can go ahead and remove our mask. Just like before, I'm going to remove my stencil and I'm going to take it immediately to the sink, or you could have a pan of water off to the side that you can just drop the stencil into and rinse it off. You'll also want to make sure that you're cleaning off your palette knife so that none of that paste dries onto it either. I usually just take my finger and knock off any excess that may be hanging on the sides, and then I'll put this to the side to dry. So now I have 3 card panels here that I can use to make my cards. I'm going to start with this one first, the one that kind of reminded me of the waves. And I'm going to use the Hello to You word die set. This large hello is going to be perfect for a nice simple finish to this card. I've die cut it twice from some Concord and 9th cardstock, and then I'm going to use a little liquid adhesive to stack those one on top of the other. This is just going to give that sentiment a little bit of heft so that it's not completely flat, but I don't have to use any foam tape. So I'm going to end up with a card that's clean and simple and postal friendly, that's appropriate for all ages and males or females. So this is just a nice gender neutral design that is postal friendly. And we'll review this finished card at the end, but for now, let's go ahead and jump into the next card. And for that, I used the A2 Saying Hello cover plate die and the Pinking Sheer A2 cover plate die. So I took the Saying Hello die and I die cut that from several sheets of colored cardstock so that I could get all of these little rectangles in different colors. And then I die cut the Alpha numeric set that comes in that Pinking Shears A2 cover plate die from white cardstock. Then I just spelled out love, L-O-V-E, and then I used the U for you, Y-O-U, to shorten it, and then added a little heart die as well. So this just was a way to fit the love you in a little 6x6, a little 2x6 square, so it fit nicely in the center of the card. So don't be afraid to kind of play with your lettering. So like I could have done L-U-V-Y-O-U, and that would have been like love you. I think that would have been really cute as well. So I'm just going to adhere my letters, each of my letters, to the rectangles, and then those rectangles will get adhered to that white layer there, that white panel, and then trimmed down. And then all of this will get popped up with foam tape in the center. So we'll go ahead and review that card at the end as well, and we are going to go right into our third card. And for this final card, I went back to the Hello to You large word die here. I'm going to pair the big U with that scripty hello. So I die cut the U from gray cardstock and I've adhered it to a panel here. And this is it's going to cover up all of my yellowy greens. So I die cut that scripty hello from the green, and I die cut that twice, stacked them on top of each other. And now I do want to add a glitter element to this card as well. The other two have glitter, so she needed her little wow moment as well. So I grabbed that clear twinkle lights again, and we're going to use that same sponging trick. So I'm going to use that makeup sponge to apply a thin coat of this paste over top of the die cut. And I have to say, this is now my favorite method to glitter a die cut, especially a sentiment die cut like this, one of these fine detailed scripty die cuts. This one step and the whole thing is glittered, and because I'm using a sponge and a pouncing motion, I'm not distorting the die cut in any way. So I really like this. I didn't have to worry about Versamark or sticky powder or glue and then glitter. I could just sponge this over top of the die cut, and this turned out perfect. So let's go ahead and review all the finished cards. Here they are. They're all done. I absolutely love the way these turned out. So we've got all of that beautiful glitter background through parts of the stencil here on this full background. I love how we were able to shift the stencil in stages to get multiple colors, and it looks, even though it's the same design, it looks completely different than all of the others. Here we did the rotating of the stencil. We masked off areas so that we could put different colors in different rows, and I really love the way this one looks with that glitter as well. And then finally we have our rainbow card in the background and our glittered hello on top of that hello you. This one might be my favorite. I do love a good clean and simple card, and I love how vibrant and bold all of these colors turned out, and that glitter is that's just the icing on the cake. All right, guys, so I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And if you are not already, make sure that you're subscribed so you don't miss any future videos. I will have all of the featured products listed in the description box below. And as always, I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.